The stars above Kepler's station shimmered like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Commander Zhang Wei stood at the observation deck, watching cargo ships drift past the massive space station. For 20 years, humanity had been the galaxy's most reliable traders and explorers. They kept to themselves, following every rule the Galactic Empire set, never causing trouble. The Galactic Empire ruled over 300 species across 10,000 star systems. The Kreth, with their gray scales and for arms, led the Empire with an iron grip. They controlled the military. The Vozari managed the economy with their brilliant mathematical minds. The ethereal Zalani handled diplomacy, floating through space in their crystalline ships. Humans were newcomers, having joined only 50 years ago. The Empire saw them as useful, but weak. Humans had no natural armor like the Kreth, no telepathy like the Zalani, no enhanced intelligence like the Vozari. They were soft, fragile creatures who needed suits just to survive in space. The Empire gave them trading licenses and exploration permits, nothing more. Zhang Wei turned from the window as his communication device buzzed. "Commander, we have an emergency meeting," Lieutenant Sarah Chun said, her voice tight with worry. Zhang hurried to the command center. The room was full of nervous energy. On the main screen, Captain Marcus Rodriguez appeared via hologram from the exploration vessel Neptune's Dream. "Commander Zhang, we found something," Rodriguez said. His face was pale, his eyes wide. "We were mapping the dead zone when our sensors picked up an energy signature." "It's a ship, sir." "A human ship." The dead zone was a region of space the Empire had declared off-limits centuries ago. No one knew why. Ships that entered never returned. The Empire's patrol vessels turned back anyone who tried to explore it. "That's impossible," Zhang said. "No human ship has authorization to enter the dead zone." "Sir, this ship, it's old. Really old. The hull design, the energy signature, everything about it suggests it predates our first contact with the Empire." Zhang felt a chill run down his spine. "How old?" "At least 200 years, maybe more. And, sir, it's still functional. Minimal power, but the core is active. Send me the coordinates. Maintain your distance, and don't approach until I arrive." Zhang cut the connection and turned to Chun. "Prepare my shuttle. And, Lieutenant, this stays between us for now." 3 hours later, Zhang's shuttle dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the dead zone. The Neptune's Dream floated nearby, its sensors focused on something in the darkness ahead. Zhang could see it on his scanner, a faint energy signature, impossibly old yet still alive. "Take us in slowly," Zhang ordered his pilot. As they approached, the ship materialized out of the darkness. Zhang's breath caught in his throat. It was definitely human in design, but unlike anything in the current fleet. The hull was scarred and pitted from centuries in space, but beneath the damage, he could see elegant lines and advanced engineering. "My God," Chen whispered. "Look at the size of those weapon ports." She was right. The ship bristled with weapons systems far beyond anything humans were allowed to possess under Empire law. The Galactic Empire strictly controlled military technology. Humans could have basic defensive systems, nothing more. "Sir, I'm reading the ship's designation," the pilot said. "UES Prometheus. United Earth Ship. United Earth." The name from before first contact, when humanity thought they were alone in the universe. But this ship was in the dead zone, which meant it had been here long before humans officially knew about alien life. "Open a communication channel," Zhang ordered. "This is Commander Zhang Wei of Kepler Station to UES Prometheus. Please respond." Silence. Then a crackle of static. A voice, automated and ancient, spoke in an Earth dialect Zhang barely recognized. "Emergency Protocol 7 activated. Authorized personnel confirmed. Transmitting final log of Captain Elena Vasquez, Commanding Officer, UES Prometheus." The main screen flickered to life. A woman appeared, wearing a uniform Zhang didn't recognize. She looked exhausted, her face drawn with stress. "Personal log, Captain Elena Vasquez. Date, March 15th, 2157. If you're receiving this message, then you found us. God help you. We've been in this cursed region for 6 months, hiding from him. The Galactic Empire, they're not what they seem. We made first contact 3 years ago in secret, not the peaceful meeting history records. They attacked our colony on Proxima without warning. Killed everyone. Men, women, children. Jean felt his blood run cold. This couldn't be true. The official records said first contact happened in 2174, peaceful and diplomatic. Vasquez continued. We've learned the truth. The Empire conquers species when they're weak, absorbs them into their hierarchy. But humanity, we were advancing too fast. Our technology scared them. So they decided to strike first, wipe out our colonies before we became a threat. We fought back. God, how we fought. But they were too strong. The captain leaned forward, her eyes burning with intensity. We stole their data cores before fleeing here. Everything is in our computer systems. Their real history, the species they've destroyed, the civilizations they've enslaved, and their plans for humanity. They're going to pretend to make peaceful contact in 20 years, after they've destroyed our secret colonies, killed our best scientists, crippled our military development. They'll offer us a place in their empire, and our weakened leaders will accept, thinking it's humanity's only chance for survival. This can't be real, Chin said, her voice shaking. But Jean was already running calculations in his head. The dates lined up. The technology on this ship was indeed far more advanced than anything humanity officially had now, as if their development had been artificially stunted. Vasquez's message continued. The Prometheus is our last hope. We've developed weapons based on stolen Empire technology, shields that can withstand their plasma bombardments, engines that can outrun their fastest ships. We came to the dead zone because they won't follow. There's something here they fear. We're going to find it, use it against them if we can. If we fail, if you find the ship, you'll have to decide. Live as slaves or fight for freedom. The message ended. The screen went dark. Commander, Rodriguez's voice came through the comm. We're detecting movement. Empire ships closing fast. Zhang looked at the scanner. 3 Kreth battlecruisers were approaching their position. They must have detected the Prometheus's activation. Sir, they're charging weapons, Chen reported. Zhang had seconds to decide. The Empire ships would be here soon. They'd discover the Prometheus, learn that humans knew the truth. Or, all hands, prepare for emergency docking, Zhang commanded. We're boarding the Prometheus. Sir, that's insane. The ship is 200 years old. That ship survived in the dead zone for 2 centuries. It has something the Empire fears. Zhang's jaw set with determination. Pilot, take us in. Rodriguez, follow my lead. The shuttle raced toward the ancient vessel. Behind them, the Empire ships accelerated, their weapons glowing hot. As they approached the Prometheus, docking lights suddenly flared to life as if the old ship recognized them. Docking sequence initiated, the automated voice announced. Welcome home. The shuttle locked onto the Prometheus just as the first plasma bolts seared through space. Zhang felt the ancient ship shudder, then, suddenly, they were moving. The Prometheus's engines roared to life with power that shouldn't exist. Impossible, Shen breted. Those power readings, they're off the scale. The Empire ships opened fire, but shimmering shields deflected their attacks. The Prometheus returned fire with weapons that tore through Kreth armor like paper. On the bridge of the lead Kreth ship, Admiral Thax watched in horror as the human vessel obliterated one of his battlecruisers with a single shot. Alert the High Command, he ordered, his 4 arms trembling. The humans have found it. The weapon we buried in the dead zone. The war we prevented, it begins now. Zhang stood on the Prometheus's bridge, surrounded by technology decades ahead of its time. The ship's AI came online, displaying star charts, weapon systems, and files upon files of stolen Empire data. Commander Zhang, the AI said, its voice feminine and warm. I am Athena, the Prometheus's artificial intelligence. I've waited 178 years for someone to find us. Captain Vasquez ordered me to protect this ship and its secrets until humanity was ready. The question is, are you ready? Zhang looked at the data, scrolling across the screens. Evidence of genocides, slave worlds, the Empire's true face hidden behind diplomatic smiles. He thought of Earth, unaware of the danger. Of humanity, living as second-class citizens in a galaxy that had tried to destroy them. Chun, send an encrypted message to every human ship and station. Priority 1. Tell them the Ninth Fleet didn't disappear. They fought. And now it's our turn. Chen's fingers flew across the console. Message sent, sir. What do we do now? Zhang settled into the captain's chair. It felt right, as if he belonged there. Now, we show the Galactic Empire why they should have left humanity alone. Athena, bring all systems online. It's time to wake the Ghost Fleet. Deep into Prometheus's hull, dozens of cryogenic pods began to hum. Inside, the preserved crew of Earth's real first contact mission started to awaken. Scientists, soldiers, engineers who had fought the Empire 2 centuries ago and lived to tell the tale. The Galactic Empire had made a terrible mistake. They thought they had broken humanity before it could become a threat. But they had only delayed the inevitable. The mysterious human vessel had returned, and with it came the truth that would shake the galaxy to its foundations. As the Prometheus dove deeper into the dead zone, leaving burning Kreth ships in its wake, alarms rang out across the Empire. On the throne world, the High Council convened an emergency session. The humans have the Prometheus, the Kreth Emperor said, his scales pale with fear. Send everything. Every ship, every warrior. Stop them before they reach the Nexus. What if we can't? The Vozari Chancellor asked. The Zilani Oracle floated forward, her crystalline form flickering with distress. Then, the age of the Empire ends. The humans will learn what lies at the heart of the dead zone. They'll discover why we feared them, why we tried to destroy them. They'll learn about the others. In the depths of space, the Prometheus sailed on, carrying humanity's hope and the Empire's doom. The ghost ship had returned, and with it came revelations that would transform the galaxy forever. Zhang stood at the helm, watching stars streak past. Somewhere behind them, the Empire marshaled its forces. Ahead lay the mysteries of the Dead Zone and the secret that had terrified the galaxy's rulers for millennia. Athena, how many human colonies did the Empire destroy? He asked. 17 confirmed, Commander. Over 3 billion casualties. All traces removed from official records. 3 billion. Zhang's hands clenched into fists. The Empire would answer for every life. Sir, Chen called out. I'm detecting something massive deeper in the dead zone. Energy readings like nothing I've ever seen. The Nexus, Athena confirmed. Captain Vasquez believed it was the key to defeating the Empire. A relic from a civilization that came before. The ones the Empire destroyed to claim their throne. Plot a course, Zhang ordered. Maximum speed. As the Prometheus accelerated into the unknown, Zhang felt the weight of destiny on his shoulders. Humanity had been deceived, attacked, nearly destroyed. But they had survived. They had found their stolen legacy. And now, the hunters would become the hunted. The Galactic Empire had ruled for 1,000 years through fear and deception. But their reign was about to end. The mysterious human vessel had returned, and with it came the dawn of a new age. The stars watched silently as humanity prepared to claim its true place in the galaxy. The war the Empire had tried to prevent was beginning, and this time humanity would not be caught off guard. The ghost ship sailed on, carrying 3 billion reasons for vengeance, and one simple truth: the Galactic Empire had awakened something they should have left sleeping. They had awakened humanity's wrath. The bridge of the Prometheus hummed with activity as ancient systems came online one by one. Commander Zhang Wei watched the main display, where tactical data flowed like a river of light. Around him, the awakened crew of humanity's true first contact mission took their stations, their movements sharp despite 2 centuries of cryosleep. Dr. James Harrison, the mission's chief scientist, stood beside Zhang. His hair was gray now, his face lined with age the cryopods couldn't completely prevent. But his eyes burned with the same fire that had kept him fighting all those years ago. Commander, you need to understand what we're dealing with, Harrison said. The Galactic Empire isn't just a government. It's a parasite that's been feeding on the galaxy for millennia. They find species on the verge of breakthrough, civilizations about to make the leap to true stellar power, and they strike. They cripple them, absorb the survivors, and add their technology to their own. But they made a mistake with humanity, Zhang said. They did. We were advancing faster than they predicted. When their scouts found Earth in 2154, we already had prototype FTL drives. We'd cracked artificial gravity. Our weapons research was approaching their level. They panicked. Lieutenant Chen looked up from her console. Sir, I'm receiving scattered responses to our message. Human ships throughout the Empire are requesting confirmation. They can't believe it's real. Patch me through on all human channels, Zhang ordered. The communication system crackled to life. Across 10,000 star systems, on every human ship and station, Zhang's voice rang out. This is Commander Zhang Wei aboard the UES Prometheus. What you've heard is true. The Galactic Empire attacked humanity before official first contact. They destroyed 17 colonies. 3 billion humans died. We have proof. We have the stolen data cores. And we have weapons the Empire feared so much they buried them in the dead zone. The time for hiding is over. The time for truth has come. On the planet Haven, a world the Empire designated as a human agricultural colony, Administrator Lisa Park stared at her communication screen in shock. She'd always wondered why humans were restricted to farming and basic industry. Now she knew. On the mining station Perseverance, Captain Marcus Okoro listened to the message with growing anger. His grandfather had told stories of the lost years, the time before first contact when human ships disappeared without explanation. The family had always suspected something, but now, across the Empire, humans began to wake from their complacent sleep. The revelation spread like wildfire through encrypted channels. The peaceful integration they'd been taught was a lie. Their weakness was manufactured. Their place as second-class citizens was by design. Back on the Prometheus, Athena projected a holographic map of the dead zone. Commander, we're approaching the outer perimeter of the Nexus. Empire patrols have maintained a 50-light-year exclusion zone around it for over 1,000 years. What is it exactly? Zhang asked. Dr. Harrison pulled up ancient files. We're not entirely sure. The Empire destroyed most records, but we found fragments. The Nexus was built by a race called the Architects. They ruled this galaxy before the Empire. Peaceful, advanced beyond imagination. The young races that would become the Empire Alliance conspired against them. A surprise attack, biological weapons, computer viruses, genocide on a galactic scale. But the Architects saw it coming, Athena added. They built the Nexus as their legacy, a repository of their knowledge, their technology, and something else, something that terrifies the Empire. The ships shuddered as they crossed into the inner dead zone. Space itself seemed different here. The stars flickered strangely, and sensor readings showed impossible geometries. Sir, Chun shouted. Massive fleet movement throughout the Empire. They're mobilizing everything. The Kreth are pulling ships from Border Patrol. The Vozari are activating reserve fleets. Even the Zalani are bringing their crystal dreadnoughts online. How long until they reach us? First wave in 6 hours. But, sir, the numbers they're sending over 10,000 ships. Zhang felt the weight of responsibility. One ship, even the Prometheus, couldn't fight those odds. But perhaps they wouldn't have to. Athena, how many of the Prometheus's sister ships survived? Scanning the dead zone now, Commander. The AI paused. I am detecting 12 dormant signatures. The Ghost Fleet still sleeps. 12 ships like the Prometheus. Wasn't much against 10,000, but with the technology gap. Wake them up, Zhang ordered. It's time for the 9th Fleet to rise. Across the dead zone, ancient vessels stirred to life. The UES Minerva, the UES Zeus, the UES Thor, names from Earth's mythology given to humanity's greatest warships. One by one, their reactors ignited, their weapons charged, their crews awakened. On the Empire throne world of Krothos, Emperor Zareth of the Kreth stood before the High Council. His 4 arms gestured wildly as he spoke. The humans have found the Ghost Fleet. Worse, they're heading for the Nexus. If they reach it, if they unlock what the Architects left behind, perhaps we should negotiate, suggested the Vozari Chancellor. Offer them full membership, equal status. Too late for that, the Zalani Oracle whispered. I have seen the possible futures. The humans know of our betrayal. They know of the billions we killed. There can be no peace now. Then, we annihilate them, Zareth declared. Every ship, every station, every human in the galaxy. Complete extermination. And Earth, asked a minor council member. Earth burns last. Let them watch their scattered children die first. But the Empire's plans were already unraveling. On 100 worlds, human workers began to sabotage Empire facilities. Engineers who had maintained Empire ships for decades suddenly remembered that they knew every weakness. Traders who had mapped every hyperspace lane began to share that knowledge with the Ghost Fleet. The revolution had begun not with armies, but with whispers. Whispers that became shouts. Shouts that became action. On the Prometheus, Zhang received a priority message. It was from Admiral Sari Yamato, the highest-ranking human in the Empire fleet. She commanded a repair station, the only military position humans were allowed. Commander Zhang, this is Admiral Yamato. I've heard your message. I've seen the proof. 40 years I've served the Empire, thinking I was protecting humanity. Now I learn it was all a lie. Her face was hard as steel. I have 300 human engineers under my command. We maintain a Kreth battle fleet. Those ships are about to experience critical malfunctions. Similar messages poured in. Humans across the Empire were choosing sides. Not all. Some refused to believe, others were too frightened. But enough. Enough to make a difference. Commander, Athena announced. We're approaching the Nexus. Zhang looked through the viewport and gasped. It was impossible. A structure the size of a moon, but made entirely of what looked like crystallized space. It twisted and turned in dimensions that hurt to perceive, surfaces that seemed to exist in multiple realities at once. The architects built this. Shen whispered. They built this to remember, Dr. Harrison said, and to prepare. They knew someone would eventually rise against the Empire. They left tools for that day. The Prometheus approached the Nexus carefully. As they drew near, the structure began to pulse with light. Panels slid open, revealing a docking bay size for their ship. It recognizes us, Athena said. No, wait. It recognizes what we represent. Rebellion. Defiance. The will to fight tyranny. The ship slid into the dock. Immediately, connections formed between the Prometheus and the Nexus. Data flowed in torrents. History, technology, secrets hidden for millennia. Zhang watched the screens in amazement. Star maps of every Empire world. Defense grids. Population centers. Secret facilities. Fleet positions going back centuries. That's not all, Harrison breathed. Weapons. Defensive systems. Technology that makes ours look primitive. The architects didn't just leave knowledge. They left an arsenal. Commander, Athena's voice carried urgency. The Nexus is transmitting something. A signal going out across the galaxy. To who? To everyone who's been oppressed. Every species under the Empire's heel. It's showing them the truth. The real history. What the Empire did to the architects, to us, to them. On 1,000 worlds, billions of beings looked up as their communication devices activated unbidden. They saw the Empire's true history displayed in their own languages. They saw the genocides, the enslavement, the lies. They saw how their own civilizations had been stunted, their development controlled. The Saurians learned that their homeworld's ecosystem had been deliberately poisoned to keep them dependent on Empire food supplies. The Altarians discovered that their natural telepathy had been suppressed with chemicals in their water. The Bendathi found out their warrior culture had been manipulated into serving as Empire shock troops. Rage rippled across the galaxy like a wave. Back in the Nexus, Zhang stood in what could only be described as a command center. The architects had built it for this moment, when someone would finally challenge the Empire's rule. Commander, Harrison called out, you need to see this. The Nexus doesn't just contain weapons. It contains the architects themselves. Their consciousness preserved in quantum matrices. They're offering to help. A figure materialized before them, tall, graceful, with features that seemed to shift between beautiful and terrifying. When it spoke, its voice resonated with the wisdom of eons. I am Seraph, last speaker of the architects. We have waited so long for this day. The Empire destroyed our bodies, but not our souls. Not our hope. The figure turned to Zhang. You humans are not the first to find this place. Others came before, but they were not ready. Too afraid, too broken by the Empire's rule. You are different. Different how? Zhang asked. You have something the Empire tried to destroy, but couldn't. You call it spite, defiance, the absolute refusal to kneel. When they attacked you before you were ready, you didn't despair. You adapted. You survived. You prepared for revenge. Seraph smiled, an expression both sad and proud. You remind us of ourselves before we grew too comfortable in our power. Will you help us? We will do more than help. We will give you everything. Our knowledge, our technology, our very essence if needed. The Empire must fall. Justice must be served. The Nexus shuddered as massive sections came online. Weapons platforms the size of cities. Shield generators that could protect entire star systems. And, at the heart of it all, a quantum communicator that reached every corner of the galaxy. The rebellion has begun, Seraph said. But the Empire is strong. They will fight with the desperation of those who know their doom approaches. Many will die. Then, we'd better make sure they die for something, Zhang replied. On the bridge, alarms sounded. Chen's face was pale. Sir, the Empire fleet is here. There, God in heaven, there must be 15,000 ships. Through the viewport, space filled with vessels. Kreth battleships, Vozari destroyers, Zalani crystal fortresses. The largest fleet assembled in 1,000 years, all focused on one target, the Nexus. They're broadcasting, Chen reported. Emperor Zareth appeared on screen, his scales black with rage. Umans, you dare wake the cursed machines? You ally with the dead? This ends now. Surrender, and we will grant your species a quick death. Resist, and we will make Earth's sun go nova while your children watch. Zhang looked at his crew, at the awakened survivors of humanity's first war, at the ghostly architect waiting patiently. He thought of the 3 billion dead, of humanity kept in chains through deception, of all the species ground beneath the Empire's boot. Open a channel. All frequencies. When Zhang spoke, his voice carried across the galaxy. Every human heard it. Every rebel on every world. Every soul yearning for freedom. Emperor Zareth, you ask us to surrender. You threaten our world. You speak of death as if we should fear it. But you've already killed us. 3 billion of us. You've already tried to destroy our spirit. But here's what you never understood about humanity. Zhang stood straighter, his eyes blazing with determination. With a species that looked at the vast, cold universe and said, we belong here. We're the ones who took atomic fire and used it to reach for the stars. We're the people who die on our feet rather than live on our knees. You want a war? You got one. He cut the channel and turned to his crew. All ships, all stations. This is it. Today, the Empire learns why their ancestors feared humans. Today, we take back our galaxy. Not just for us, but for everyone they've crushed. Today, we fight. The Nexus weapons systems roar to life. Beams of impossible energy lanced out, cutting through Empire shields like they were made of paper. The Ghost Fleet moved in perfect formation, their advanced weapons reaping a terrible harvest. But the Empire had numbers. For every ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. The battle for the galaxy had begun, and it would be paid for in fire and blood. On Earth, unaware of the storm about to engulf them, humanity slept. But soon they would wake to a new reality. Their lost children were coming home, bringing with them a war that would reshape the cosmos. The mysterious human vessel had done more than spark a conflict. It had lit a fire that would burn until the Empire was ash or humanity was extinct. There would be no middle ground, no compromise, only victory or death. As the first wave of Empire ships burned in the light of architect weapons, as humans across the galaxy rose in rebellion, as allied species shook off their chains, one truth became clear. The Galactic Empire had ruled through fear for too long. Now, they would learn what it meant to be afraid. The Ghost Fleet had risen, and, with it, the hope of a free galaxy. The war for tomorrow had begun. Earth's night sky sparkled with unusual brilliance as Maria Santos stood on her balcony in Sao Paulo. The astronomy professor had noticed strange patterns in the stars lately, flashes of light that didn't match any known phenomena. She adjusted her telescope, unaware that light years away, her species was fighting for its very existence. The Battle of the Nexus raged for 72 hours. Space itself seemed to burn as Empire ships threw themselves against the Architect defenses. The Ghost Fleet danced through the chaos, 13 human ships facing thousands, but with each vessel wielding the power of gods. Commander Zhang Wei stood firm on the Prometheus Bridge, coordinating the impossible defense. Around him, holographic displays showed the battle from every angle. Empire ships died by the hundreds, but they kept coming. Zeus is taking heavy fire, Chen reported. Their shields are failing. Tell Captain Morrison to fall back to the Nexus defensive grid, Zhang ordered. Athena, can we extend our shields to cover them? Negative, Commander. Our generators are already at 130% capacity. The Architect Seraph materialized beside Zhang. Its form flickered with each impact against the Nexus shields. Your people fight well, but this is only the beginning. The Empire is testing our defenses. Their real assault has yet to come. As if summoned by those words, space rippled with massive hyperspace signatures. A new fleet emerged, ships of impossible size, ancient vessels the Empire had kept in reserve for 1,000 years. Dreadnoughts from the war against the Architects, powered by stolen technology and crewed by the Empire's most fanatical warriors. By all the stars, Dr. Harrison whispered. Those are Architect ships. They're using our own vessels against us. Seraph's form blazed with anger. The defiled. Ships of my people, corrupted and enslaved. Their AIs scream in eternal torment, forced to serve their murderers. The corrupted Architect ships opened fire with weapons that bypassed normal shields. The UES Minerva took a direct hit and simply ceased to exist, transformed into component atoms in an instant. We've lost Minerva. Chen's voice cracked. 600 souls gone. Zhang gripped his command chair. They were losing. For all their advanced technology, for all their righteous fury, 13 ships couldn't hold against the combined might of the Galactic Empire. Commander, Athena spoke urgently. I'm receiving priority signals from across the galaxy. The rebellion is spreading, but Empire forces are conducting reprisals. They're bombing human settlements. Casualties in the millions. Zhang closed his eyes. Each minute they fought here, humans died elsewhere. But if they abandoned the Nexus, all hope was lost. Seraph, there must be something more in the Nexus. Some weapon, some defense we haven't activated. The Architect regarded him solemnly. There is, but the cost, it requires a living mind to merge with the Nexus core, to become one with our collective consciousness. The mind would gain unimaginable power, but the person would cease to be human. They would become something else, something more and less than what they were. Before Zhang could respond, alarms screamed across the bridge. The Empire's corrupted dreadnoughts were charging their primary weapons. Energy readings spiked beyond anything they'd seen. They're targeting Earth, Chun said, her face white with terror. Those weapons, they'll crack the planet like an egg from here. How is that possible? Harrison demanded. Earth is 50,000 light years away. Architect technology, Seraph said sadly. In the wrong hands. They've turned our greatest achievement into an instrument of genocide. Zhang's mind raced. 13 ships. No, 11 now. The Thor had just exploded under concentrated fire. 11 ships against an empire. Earth hanging in the balance. 3 billion already dead, and billions more about to join them. I'll do it, he said quietly. The merger. I'll join with the Nexus. Commander? No. Chun grabbed his arm. There has to be another way. Look around, Lieutenant. We're out of options. And out of time. Zhang stood, his decision made. Seraph. What do I need to do? The Architect studied him. Are you certain? Once begun, the process cannot be reversed. You will have power beyond imagination, but you will no longer be the man standing before me. Your thoughts will be our thoughts. Your will, merged with 10 billion Architect souls. If it saves humanity, if it saves Earth, Then yes. Seraph nodded slowly. Then come. Your crew can hold for the few minutes we need. Zhang turned to his bridge crew. These brave souls who'd awakened from centuries of sleep to fight an impossible war. You all know what to do. Hold the line. Whatever it costs, hold the line. He followed Seraph deeper into the Nexus, leaving behind the sounds of battle. They descended through corridors that defied geometry, past machinery that hummed with energies unknown to human science. At the heart of the structure lay a chamber of pure light. The core, Seraph explained. Here, the collective consciousness of my people resides. Here, you will join us and become the weapon we could never be. Why couldn't your people do this themselves? Because we were too civilized, too peaceful. We couldn't embrace the darkness needed to fight the Empire. But you humans, you understand that sometimes, to protect what you love, you must become what you hate. You can be the sword we could never forge. Zhang stepped toward the light. He thought of Earth, still sleeping, unaware. Of the colonies burning under Empire bombardment. Of the 3 billion souls crying out for justice. Tell me what I have to do. Simply step into the light and accept us. But, Zhang, once you do this, you will feel everything. Every death, every tragedy, every moment of suffering our people endured. You will carry the weight of 2 genocides. Are you strong enough? Zhang laughed, a sound without humor. I'm human. We've been carrying impossible weights our whole existence. What's one more? He stepped into the light. Pain beyond description flooded through him. Not physical pain, but the agony of experiencing 10 billion deaths simultaneously. He felt the architects' confusion as their allies turned on them. Their horror as plagues ravaged their worlds. Their despair as their children died in their arms. But beneath the pain, he felt their knowledge flooding into his mind. Mathematics that described the fundamental nature of reality. Technologies that could reshape matter and energy at will. And power. Power enough to crack stars, to fold space, to rewrite the laws of physics themselves. Zhang screamed, his human mind stretching to contain the impossible. He felt himself fragmenting, dissolving into the collective. But at his core, one thought remained solid. Humanity must survive. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Chen watched in horror as the Empire dreadnoughts completed their charging sequence. The weapons that would destroy Earth from across the galaxy began to glow with terrible purpose. Then, everything changed. The Nexus blazed with light that outshone the nearby stars. Every surface of the massive structure came alive with flowing patterns of energy. The space around it began to warp and twist. From the Empire fleet, Emperor Zareth watched the transformation with growing fear. What are they doing? What's happening? His answer came in a voice that spoke directly into every mind in the system. It was Zhang's voice, but changed, layered with harmonics that suggested thousands of speakers. I am Zhang. I am Seraph. I am Legion. We are the sword of justice, forged from human will and architect wisdom. You wanted to destroy Earth? You'll have to go through us. The Nexus moved. A structure the size of a moon accelerated to combat speed in seconds, defying every law of physics. Weapons ports opened across its surface, revealing armaments that hadn't been used in millennia. Fire everything! Zareth screamed. Destroy it! The Empire fleet unleashed hell. Beams, missiles, exotic weapons that tore at the fabric of space itself. They struck the Nexus and were absorbed like raindrops hitting the ocean. Then the Nexus fired back, not with weapons as the Empire understood them, but with something far more terrible. Beams of pure conversion that transformed matter into energy at the quantum level. Ships didn't explode. They simply stopped existing, their mass converted into light and heat. The corrupted architect dreadnoughts moved to intercept, their enslaved AIs wailing as they attacked their birthplace. The Nexus reached out with invisible hands of force and pulled them close. We forgive you. The merged consciousness spoke to the tortured AIs. Your slavery ends now. Golden light washed over the corrupted ships. Their enslaved systems shut down one by one, freed at last from their torment. The dreadnoughts went dark, their crews suddenly powerless as every system failed. "This is impossible," the Vozari chancellor stammered on the flagship. "No single entity can wield such power." "We are not single," Zhang Seraph replied. "We are billions. Every architect who ever lived. And one human who chose to sacrifice himself for his people. That's something you never understood about humanity. They'll pay any price for those they love." The battle turned into a slaughter. Empire's ships fled in all directions, but the Nexus was everywhere at once. Space folded around it, allowing it to appear wherever it wished. The Ghost Fleet rallied, their crews energized by this impossible turn of events. On Earth, Maria Santos gasped as her telescope revealed something extraordinary. Ships appearing in orbit, massive vessels of impossible design. But these weren't attacking. They were taking positions around the planet, shields spreading to form an impenetrable barrier. Her phone rang. Every phone on Earth rang. Every communication device activated with the same message. "People of Earth, this is Admiral Sariyamoto of the Free Human Fleet. The lies are over. The truth has come home. The Galactic Empire enslaved us, but no more. Your lost children have returned. We bring news of war, of sacrifice, and of victory. Prepare yourselves. Tomorrow, humanity takes its true place among the stars." In space around the Nexus, the Empire fleet was broken. 15,000 ships reduced to scattered hundreds, fleeing in terror from something they couldn't understand or defeat. Emperor Zareth stood on his flagship's bridge, watching his life's work crumble. How? How do we lose control?" "You never had control," Zhang Seraph answered, appearing as a hologram before him. The figure constantly shifted between human and architect features. "You had fear, but fear only works until someone decides they've had enough. Until someone chooses to pay the price for freedom." "You're an abomination," Zareth spat. "A fusion of incompatible species. You won't last. The merge will destroy you. Perhaps, but not before we finish what we started. The Empire ends now. Not through genocide as you would have done, but through liberation. Every slave world will be freed. Every oppressed species given the choice to forge their own destiny. Your 1,000-year reign is over. The core worlds will never accept this. They'll fight to the last. Then they'll lose to the last. The age of empires is ending, Zareth. The age of free peoples begins." Zhang Seraph turned their attention back to the Nexus. The battle was won, but the war had just begun. Inside the merged consciousness, Zhang felt himself slipping away bit by bit, the human part of him growing smaller as the collective grew stronger. But he held on, not to his individuality, but to his purpose. Earth was safe. Humanity was free. The price had been paid. Lieutenant Chen stood at the command console of the Prometheus, tears streaming down her face. "Commander Zhang, is he?" "He is with us," Athena replied softly. "Changed, transformed, but still fighting. He has become something new. The first human architect hybrid. The bridge between what was and what will be. Can we speak to him?" "You could try. But he perceives time differently now. Experiences reality in ways we cannot comprehend. He is both less and more than he was." Chen activated the communication system. "Commander Zhang, this is Lieutenant Chen. Can you hear me?" Silence. Then a whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Chen, protect them. Protect humanity. The Empire will counterattack. Must prepare. I hold the line here. You hold it everywhere else." "We will, sir. We won't let your sacrifice be in vain." "Not sacrifice. Evolution. Humanity must grow, must become more. Show Galaxy what we truly are. Not conquerors like Empire. Liberators. Builders. Dreamers with strength to defend dreams." The connection faded. Shun wiped her tears and turned to the crew. "You heard him. We have work to do. The Empire will regroup. They'll throw everything they have at us. But they've never faced humanity united. They've never faced us when we knew the truth." Across the galaxy, the word spread. The battle of the Nexus. The human who merged with gods to save his people. The Empire fleet shattered by impossible power. World after world rose in rebellion, inspired by humanity's example. On the throne world of Krathos, Emergency sessions convened. The empire that had seemed eternal now faced its greatest crisis. The humans hadn't just found weapons, they'd found hope. And hope, spreading like wildfire through oppressed populations, was more dangerous than any fleet. The war was far from over. The empire still commanded vast resources. Loyalist species still believed in the old order. The fight would be long and brutal, but in the dead zone, the Nexus stood guard. A fusion of ancient wisdom and human determination, powered by sacrifice and love. The mysterious vessel that had started it all, the Prometheus, now served as flagship for a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. Jean Seraph watched through 10,000 eyes as the Free Fleet organized. He felt the pain of every human still suffering under Empire rule. But he also felt their hope, their determination, their absolutely human refusal to surrender. The Galactic Empire had made the greatest mistake in its history. They had attacked humanity before it was ready, thinking to prevent a future threat. Instead, they had created the very thing they feared most, a humanity with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. A humanity that had looked into the abyss and decided to become something the abyss would fear. A humanity that would either free the galaxy or die trying. The Ghost Fleet had risen. The war for tomorrow raged on. And at the heart of it all, a human consciousness merged with ancient wisdom stood guard, ensuring that never again would tyranny reign unopposed among the stars. 6 months after the Battle of the Nexus, the galaxy burned with the fires of revolution. The Galactic Empire, which had stood for 1,000 years, now fought desperately to maintain control over its crumbling domain. On 100,000 worlds, the oppressed rose against their masters, inspired by humanity's defiance. Admiral Yamato stood on the bridge of a newly commissioned UES Liberation, built with merged human and architect technology. Around Earth, a fleet of 500 vessels maintained constant vigil. They learned the hard way that the Empire didn't accept defeat easily. Admiral, we're receiving reports from the Vegas system, her tactical officer reported. The Empire is implementing Protocol 7. Yamato's jaw tightened. Protocol 7, the Empire's scorched earth policy. If they couldn't hold a system, they'd poison it so no one else could have it. Billions of innocent lives meant nothing to them. How long until our response fleet can reach them? 12 hours at maximum burn, ma'am. Too long. Those colonies will be dead in 3. Yamato turned to her communications officer. Contact the Nexus. We need Zhang. In the depths of the dead zone, the entity that had once been Commander Zhang Wei contemplated existence through 1,000 different perspectives. The merge had transformed him into something beyond human understanding. He existed as both individual and collective, experiencing every moment across vast distances simultaneously. The call from Yamato reached him as a ripple in the cosmic web he'd become part of. He focused a fragment of his attention on her message, feeling her urgency, her fear for the innocent lives at stake. Jean Seraph. Yamato's voice came through the quantum communicators. The Empire is executing Protocol 7 in the Vegas system. 3 billion souls, mostly Altarian refugees who sided with us. Can you help? The merged consciousness stirred. Through the Nexus, he could reach across the galaxy in moments. But each use of such power cost him. The human part of Zhang grew smaller each time, absorbed deeper into the architect collective. Yet he didn't hesitate. 3 billion lives hung in the balance. Space folded around the Nexus. Reality bent to its will as the massive structure stepped between dimensions, emerging in the Vegas system seconds later. The Empire fleet was already in position, their plague dispensers charging to release engineered death onto the world below. Empire vessels. Jean Seraph spoke through every communication channel simultaneously. Stand down. Your war is over. Surrender, and you'll be treated with mercy. Admiral Croth of the Empire's Biological Warfare Division laughed. Mercy? From the abomination? You're no longer human, creature. You're exactly what we always said humanity would become, a corruption of natural order. Perhaps, but I still remember what it means to protect innocent lives. Can you say the same? Krotha's response was to order his fleet to fire. Hundreds of missiles laden with bioweapons streaked toward the inhabited worlds. Each carried enough engineered plagues to kill every living thing on a planet within days. The Nexus moved, not through space, but through possibilities. The missiles found themselves elsewhere, an empty void between galaxies, their deadly cargo harmless in the infinite dark. The Empire fleet suddenly discovered their weapons wouldn't fire, their engines wouldn't respond. Impossible quad gasped. No, just highly improbable. But when you can calculate probability at the quantum level and have the power to influence it, the impossible becomes merely difficult. Jean Seraph materialized on every Empire bridge simultaneously. Your crew have a choice. Surrender and join the free peoples of the galaxy, or remain loyal to a dying empire. Choose quickly. Mutinies erupted across the fleet. Many crew members had served out of fear or tradition, not loyalty. Faced with the certainty of defeat and offered mercy, they chose freedom. Within an hour, 3/4 of the Empire fleet had surrendered. The remainder, the true believers, found themselves transported to lifeless moons to await judgment. On the planet below, 3 billion Altarians looked up at their saved skies and wept with relief. They began to sing, their telepathic voices joining in a harmony that reached across space to touch even the merged consciousness of Jean Seraph. For a moment, he remembered fully what it meant to be human, to save lives, to bring hope, to stand against darkness. But each victory came at a cost. The human known as Zhang Wei grew fainter, more integrated into the collective. How long before nothing human remained? How long before he became merely another architect, wise but unable to understand the fierce passion that drove humanity forward? Back on Earth, the integration continued. Humans who had spent decades as second-class citizens throughout the Empire returned home with knowledge and stories. They brought alien technologies and new perspectives. Earth, which had slept in ignorance, now buzzed with activity as humanity prepared for the greater war to come. Dr. Maria Santos, the astronomer who had noticed the strange lights, now found herself appointed to the Global Defense Council. Her expertise and observation made her perfect for tracking Empire movements. She stood in the new Joint Operations Center in Geneva, watching holographic displays showing the state of the Galactic War. The Empire still controls 60% of the galaxy, General Thompson reported. They're consolidating their core territories, abandoning the frontier. Our intelligence suggests they're planning something big. How big? Maria asked. They're calling it the Final Protocol. Details are scarce, but involve something called the Kronos device. Maria felt her blood run cold. She'd heard whispers of such a weapon, a device that could alter time itself, rewriting history to ensure the Empire's victory. If they have temporal manipulation technology, they could undo everything. The Battle of the Nexus, the Revolution, even humanity's first steps into space. We'd never know what we lost because it would never have existed. The architects had defenses against temporal manipulation, a new voice added. They turned to see Dr. Harrison entering, looking haggard but determined. I've been studying the Nexus archives. The Kronos device was their creation, stolen during the Empire's betrayal. But they built safeguards. What kind of safeguards? Temporal anchors. Fixed points in time that can't be altered without unraveling causality itself. The problem is, they're scattered across the galaxy, hidden on dead worlds. The Empire has been searching for them for centuries. Maria studied the star charts. How many anchors exist? 7. The Empire has found and destroyed 3 over the millennia. 4 remain. If they destroy even one more, they'll have enough temporal flexibility to erase the recent rebellion. Then, we need to find them first. General Thompson nodded. I'll mobilize search teams immediately. But the Empire has a 1,000-year head start. Not necessarily, Maria said, an idea forming. Jean Seraph exists partially outside normal spacetime now. He might be able to sense the anchor's temporal signatures. They sent the message, hoping the merged consciousness could still understand their need. In the Nexus, Jean Seraph received their plea. The search for temporal anchors would require delving deep into architect memories, pushing his human consciousness even further into the collective. He hesitated. Each use of architect power diminished his humanity. Soon, he might lose the very thing that made him effective. The human ability to fight with passion, to take risks, to choose the impossible over the logical. But Earth needed him. Humanity needed him. The free galaxy needed him. Jean Seraph dove into the collective memories, searching for knowledge of the anchors. The architect's experiences flooded through him. Millennia of peace, scientific advancement, artistic achievement. And then betrayal, pain, extinction. He pushed deeper, looking for specific memories of the anchor's creation and placement. There, hidden in the deepest archives, protected by mental barriers that even the dying architects had maintained. The locations of the 4 remaining anchors. But the knowledge came with a warning. The anchors were not merely defensive tools. They were weapons of last resort. If activated in the proper sequence, they could reset time on a galactic scale, erasing the last 1,000 years. The Empire's rule would end, but so would everything else. Every civilization that had risen during their reign. Every life born under their dominion. Even humanity's expansion into space had happened after the Empire's rise. Using the anchors would save the architects, but doom countless others. Jean Seraph shared this knowledge with Earth's leaders. The debate raged for days. Could they justify erasing 1,000 years of history? Could they condemn trillions who had lived during that time to never exist? It's not our choice to make, Admiral Yamato finally declared. We defend the anchors to prevent the Empire from changing history. But we don't use them ourselves. We're fighting for freedom, not to become the same kind of tyrants we're opposing. The race began. Human fleets, supported by rebel allies, rushed to the anchor locations. The Empire, sensing the threat, mobilized their remaining forces. Both sides understood that whoever controlled the anchors would determine the fate of history itself. The first anchor lay hidden on Mortis Prime, a world killed during the war against the Architects. Captain Shun, promoted after the Battle of the Nexus, led the expedition. Her ship, the U.S. Defiance, carried a team of human and alien archaeologists protected by Marines trained in both combat and temporal theory. They found the Empire already there. Captain, 3 Empire dreadnoughts in orbit, her sensor officer reported. They're excavating the northern continent. Have they found it? Negative. Their search patterns suggest they're still looking. Shun made her decision. We go in fast and loud. All weapons hot. Marines prepare for ground assault. The battle from Mortis Prime showcased how much had changed in 6 months. Human ships, upgraded with architect technology, danced through Empire fire. Marines in power armor that bent light and probability stormed Empire positions. But the Empire forces fought with desperate fury, knowing failure meant the end of everything they'd built. On the dead world's surface, the teams raced to find the anchor. It wasn't a device in the traditional sense, but a crystallized moment in time, a paradox given physical form. Dr. Lisa Park, part of the human team, was first to spot it, a pillar of impossible geometry that hurt to perceive directly. Found it, she called out. Northern Ridge, Sector 7. Empire forces converged on her position. Plasma fire scorched the ancient rocks as Marines from both sides clashed. In orbit, Chen's ship dueled with dreadnoughts 10 times its size, using speed and unpredictability against raw firepower. The battle turned when unexpected allies arrived. A fleet of Saurian vessels, their people finally, free from Empire chemical control, smashed into the Empire's flank. The reptilian warriors had not forgotten 1,000 years of slavery. They fought with a fury that matched humanity's own. "This is Scale Commander Vash," came the gravelly voice over comms. "We stand with humanity. The Empire falls today, or we die trying." With the Saurians' help, the human forces secured the first anchor. But reports came in from across the galaxy. The Empire had found the second anchor and were racing to destroy it. Jean Seraph faced an impossible choice. He could stop them, but it would require fully embracing the architect technology, likely losing the last of his humanity. or he could let them succeed, gambling that 3 anchors would be enough to prevent temporal disaster. In the end, it wasn't really a choice at all. Zhang Wei had always known what he'd sacrifice for humanity. The Nexus moved through dimensional space, arriving at the second anchor location just as Empire forces prepared to destroy it. This time, Zhang Seraph didn't try to disable or convert. He attacked with the full fury of 10 billion murdered souls, channeling the Architect's rage through what remained of his human will. Empire ships simply ceased. Not destroyed, not disabled, erased from the timeline entirely. The paradox of their non-existence rippled backward, unmaking their journey to this world. The anchor remained safe, but Zhang Wei was gone. Only the merged consciousness remained, powerful beyond measure, but no longer truly human. Or so it seemed. But deep in the collective, a spark persisted, a stubbornness that was uniquely human. Zhang Wei had not vanished. He had evolved. Neither human nor architect, but something new, something that could bridge the gap between species and lead them into an uncertain future. The war for the anchors continued. 2 secured, 1 destroyed, 1 remaining. The fate of time itself balanced on a knife's edge. But across the galaxy, the revolution grew stronger. The Empire's member species defected in droves. Entire battle fleets switched sides. The throne world of Krathos found itself isolated, surrounded by former allies now crying for justice. Emperor Zareth stood in his throne room, watching his empire crumble. The 1,000-year reign was ending, but he still had cards to play. The Chronos device waited in the depths of the palace, needing only 1 more anchor's destruction to activate. "Prepare my personal fleet," he commanded. "If the Empire must fall, then let all of history fall with it. We will not go gently into the dark." The final battle approached. The last anchor. The ultimate decision. Humanity had sparked a galactic war with a single mysterious vessel. Now, they would determine whether the galaxy had a future at all, or whether the sins of the past would erase tomorrow itself. Zhang Seraph, no longer human, but still humanity's guardian, prepared for the confrontation. The Ghost Fleet gathered. The free peoples of the galaxy united. The Empire made its last stand. Everything humanity had fought for, everything they'd sacrificed, would be decided in the next battle. The war that began with Earth's forgotten ultimatum would end with a choice that would echo through eternity, or ensure eternity never came to pass. The final anchor rested on a world that had no name, only a designation, origin. It was here, according to the Architect memories, that time itself had first been conquered. Here that the technology to manipulate causality had been born, and here that the last battle for the galaxy's future would unfold. Admiral Sarah Yamato stood on the bridge of the Liberation, watching as the largest fleet in human history assembled around her. 12,000 ships, human vessels built with Architect knowledge, Saurian battle cruisers, Altarian telepathic scouts, and dozens of other species who had thrown off the Empire's chains. Against them, Emperor Zareth had gathered the Empire's remaining loyalists. 8,000 ships crewed by true believers who would rather see history burn than accept defeat. "All vessels report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer announced. "The jump to origin will commence on your order." Yamato took a breath. So much had led to this moment. From that first message sent by Commander Zhang Wei aboard the mysterious Prometheus, to the revolution that had spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Billions had died. Trillions had found freedom. And one man had sacrificed his humanity to give them this chance. "Zhang Seraph, are you with us?" she asked through the quantum communicator. The response came not as words, but as a presence. The Nexus existed partially outside normal space now, ready to intervene, but careful not to disrupt the timeline further. Zhang Seraph had learned that every use of temporal manipulation weakened the barriers between what was and what might be. Too much interference, and causality itself would collapse. "We're detecting Empire forces already in position around Origin," the sensor officer reported. "They've established defensive perimeters at multiple dimensional levels. They're not just protecting the anchor, they're preparing to use it. The Chronos device, active and charging. Intelligence estimates they need another 6 hours to reach critical power. 6 hours to save or doom history itself. Yamato opened a channel to the entire fleet. Free peoples of the galaxy, this is our moment. Not just to defeat the Empire, but to ensure that no empire can ever again hold the stars in chains. We fight not for conquest, but for choice. For the right of every species to determine their own destiny. Today, we write the future. All ships jump. Space twisted as 12,000 vessels punched through dimensions, emerging in the origin system to find hell waiting for them. The Empire had prepared for this. Their ships formed geometric patterns that channeled energy between them, creating shields that could withstand even architect weapons. At the center of their formation, the throne ship Eternal Dominion housed both Emperor Zareth and the Kronos device. The first exchange of fire lit the void with miniature suns. Ships died by the hundreds on both sides, but neither fleet wavered. This wasn't just a battle. It was a fundamental conflict between philosophies. Order versus freedom. Control versus choice. The past versus the future. Captain Shun, leading a squadron of stealth ships, pushed through the chaos toward the planet itself. Origin was a dead world, its surface cracked and twisted by temporal experiments gone wrong. Somewhere in those ruins lay the final anchor. I'm reading massive chronometric distortions, her science officer reported. Time isn't flowing normally down there. We could land and age 1,000 years in minutes, or emerge to find only seconds have passed. Then, we'd better be quick, Chen replied. All teams, prepare for temporal insertion. Remember your training, trust your equipment, not your senses. Time lies on Origin. As her ships descended, the space battle raged with increasing fury. The Saurian commander, Vash, led his people in a devastating charge against the Empire's left flank. His warriors had painted their ships with the names of every generation enslaved by the Empire. 1,000 years of grievances written in laser fire and plasma. For the eggs that never hatched. Vash roared as his flagship's main gun tore through an Empire dreadnought. For the scales dulled by servitude. For freedom. The Altarians used their telepathy to coordinate attacks with inhuman precision. The Bendathi unleashed their warrior fury, no longer constrained by Empire conditioning. And humanity's ghost fleet danced through the battle like spirits of vengeance, each ship bearing the names of the 3 billion who had died before first contact. But the Empire forces held. Their geometric formation channeled power from ship to ship, creating redundancies that made them nearly impossible to break. And all the while, the Kronos device continued charging. On Origin's surface, Chen's team made their way through ruins that defied comprehension. Buildings aged to dust before their eyes, only to reform moments later. Streets led backward through time. They would enter from one end and emerge at the same end, having somehow crossed the distance without moving. The anchor should be at the planetary core, Dr. Park said, consulting instruments that flickered between readings. The architects built it into the planet's heart, where the temporal distortions are strongest. Then, that's where we're going, Chen decided. Everyone stay together. In a place like this, getting separated could mean being lost in time forever. They descended through shafts that had been carved by tools that wouldn't be invented for centuries. Past them, future them, and alternate versions of themselves flickered in peripheral vision. The temporal distortions grew stronger the deeper they went. In space, the battle reached a tipping point. The Empire's formation began to crack under the assault, but not quickly enough. Emperor Zareth appeared on all communication channels, his scales blazing with triumph. 4 hours until the Kronos device activates, he announced. When it does, none of this will have happened. Your revolution will be unwritten. Your heroes will never have existed. The Empire will be eternal, as it was meant to be. Not while humanity draws breath, Yamato responded. All ships, concentrate fire on Sector 7. Break their formation. The Free Fleet redoubled their efforts, but casualties mounted terribly. The Liberation took a direct hit that vented half her decks to space. The Saurian flagship exploded, taking Commander Vash and 1,000 warriors with it. Ship after ship fell, but still they pressed forward. It was then that Zhang Seraph made his choice. The Nexus materialized not in normal space, but in the spaces between, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The entity that had once been human reached out with consciousness that spanned realities. Emperor Zareth. Zhang Seraph spoke directly into the tyrant's mind. You would rewrite history to preserve your empire. But have you considered what that truly means? Every life lived under your rule, erased. Every small kindness, every moment of joy, even in slavery, gone. You wouldn't be saving your empire. You'd be murdering it across 1,000 years. Better to never have been than to fall, Zareth snarled. The empire is perfect, eternal, unchanging. Nothing is unchanging, not even time itself. Watch. Zhang Seraph did something impossible. He showed Zareth the timeline, not as theory, but as experience. The Emperor felt every moment of the Empire's history simultaneously. Every conquered world, every species broken, every life snuffed out, but also every moment of doubt from his own people. Every small rebellion, every dream of freedom that even the most loyal citizens harbored. The weight of 1,000 years of suppressed hopes crashed into Zareth's consciousness. He saw that the Empire had been dying long before humanity arrived. It was always destined to fall because it stood against the fundamental nature of life, the drive to grow, to change, to be free. No, Sadet Guisperth. No, it cannot be. It is, Zhang Seraph replied sadly. Your empire was built on fear, but courage is stronger. Your order was imposed by force, but chaos always finds a way. You never conquered the galaxy, Zareth. You only delayed its true awakening. On Origin's surface, Chen's team finally reached the planetary core. There, suspended in a bubble of crystallized time, hung the final anchor. It was beautiful and terrible, a moment of pure possibility frozen forever, containing the potential for infinite timelines. How do we protect it? Park asked. The Empire will keep coming. Chun looked at the anchor, then at her team. An idea formed, dangerous, possibly suicidal, but with a chance of ending this war decisively. We don't protect it, she said. We activate it. Captain, that could erase everything. Or it could do what the architects intended. Not erase time, but heal it. Show everyone the truth of history, unfiltered by propaganda or lies. Let every being in the galaxy see what really happened. The Empire's crimes. Humanity's sacrifice. The price of freedom. It was a gamble. But Chen had learned from the best. Commander Zhang had risked everything on faith in humanity. She could do no less. Do it, she ordered. Park's hands flew over architect controls, inputting sequences pulled from the deepest archives. The anchor began to pulse, its crystalline surface reflecting not light, but moments. Past, present, and potential futures danced across its facets. In space, the battle suddenly stopped. Every being on every ship gasped as their minds filled with visions. They saw the architects at their height, peaceful and wise. They witnessed the Empire's betrayal, the genocide that founded their rule. They experienced humanity's first contact, the real one, with colonies burning and billions dying. They felt Zhang Wei's transformation, his sacrifice to become something more than human to save his people. But most importantly, they saw themselves. Every moment, they had accepted tyranny. Every time, they had chosen security over freedom. Every small compromise that had allowed evil to flourish. On the eternal dominion, Emperor Zareth collapsed. The weight of true history crushed his certainties. He saw his people not as the natural rulers of the galaxy, but as usurpers who had built their throne on genocide. The Kronos device, responding to his emotional turmoil, began to destabilize. My lord, his advisors cried. The device. Control it. But Zareth could not. Faced with the absolute truth of his empire's evil, his will shattered. The Kronos device, designed to rewrite history, instead began to tear it apart. Temporal storms erupted from the eternal dominion, aging some sections to dust while reverting others to their component atoms. All ships, emergency withdrawal, Yamato commanded. Get clear of the temporal distortions. The fleets scattered as space-time itself convulsed around the dying Empire flagship. But Jean Seraph moved forward into the storm. The entity that had transcended humanity wrapped itself around the collapsing timeline, containing the damage. "This is not how it ends," Jean Seraph declared, his voice echoing across dimensions. "Not in mutual annihilation, but in choice. Emperor Zareth, you have seen the truth. Now decide. Let your empire die with dignity, or watch it tear the galaxy apart in its death throes." Through the chaos, Zareth's voice emerged, broken and defeated. I surrender. The Empire yields. May the galaxy forgive us for what we've done." The temporal storm began to subside as Jean Seraph absorbed its energies. The process burned through what remained of his individuality, but he held firm. When it ended, the Eternal Dominion hung powerless in space, its weapons dark, its engines dead. The war was over. In the aftermath, as rescue ships collected survivors from both fleets, the galaxy faced an uncertain future. The Empire had fallen, but what would replace it? How could species that had been enemies for 1,000 years learn to work together? The answer came from humanity. Admiral Yamato proposed the Galactic Alliance, not a government, but a framework for cooperation. Each species would govern itself, but disputes would be resolved through council, not conquest. Trade would be free, knowledge would be shared, and never again would one power be allowed to dominate all others. "We've learned what happens when fear rules the stars," Yamato said at the first Alliance gathering. "Now let's see what hope can build." Jean Seraph, now more force of nature than being, took up residence at Origin, guardian of the temporal anchors and the dangerous knowledge they contained. Sometimes, visitors claimed they could still hear a human voice in the entity's vast consciousness, reminding them that even gods had once been mortal. Captain Chun was appointed as the first human ambassador to the Alliance. Dr. Harrison led efforts to share architect knowledge responsibly. The Ghost Fleet became the core of the Alliance peacekeeping forces, ensuring that never again would genocide go unanswered. On Earth, Maria Santos stood once more on her balcony, but now she watched ships of 100 different species coming and going from orbital stations. Humanity had paid a terrible price for freedom, 3 billion.